Hi, Ann Cornick from Paint and Porcelain Exchange. I'm here to help beginners get started in China painting primarily. So a lot of these things that we do are very simple, but also to encourage those of you that have been painting a while to paint along with us. And today we're going to be working on what I call a penned poinsettia, meaning that you use a sugar water ink to create the outline of the poinsettia, and then you paint it in. And it was inspired by my dad. It's one of his pieces. And you can see, I pulled this out to decorate my table with, and all of a sudden, boom, I saw it and I thought, oh, I know exactly what I want to do today. Okay, so this is what I got inspired by, my dad's poinsettia. And he did it with pen and ink. No, I'm sorry, he did it with sugar water. He always painted with sugar water. He said it was easier than pen and ink, and I'm beginning to believe him. This was done in 2003, and I thought one of the unique things about it was when he wanted depth, all he did, let me get right where it is here, was right there. He just took the ink and made it, just filled it in. He did the same thing down here and over here. I'll hold it up a little closer so you can see. So that was his shadow. He painted everything the same color, and then he came back with a darker color. So he painted all like a shell pink, and then came back with a rose, and he painted the areas he wanted rose. And then as far as his leaves went, he just painted them a solid color. And then he went through them where he thought there should be shadow. He added with the ink, the darkness. This is mine and how it came out. And that's one fire. I was so excited with it. I was just thrilled. So I'm not putting more on this, but of course I didn't sign it. And because I didn't expect it to get done in one fire. Now this is a very nice plate. It kind of reminds me of Lenox. It has a soft ivory background and a really pretty edge on it that's already there. So if you don't have to put gold on your edges, you can buy plates that have gold edging, and when you fire, the gold won't fire out. So for those of you that are new to China painting, that's one way of cheating and getting the gold edge you want. But I will show you how this is done. It's basically you draw in the outside with sugar water and paint, and then you paint it. Okay. Another way of doing that, instead of using like I did the whole brown thing, because I like it because, of course, my dad, see, his is all brown, is one of our other people on here, and I'm sorry, I don't remember who did it. It was like last year or the year before, said that they did theirs with color. So I was trying that. Excuse the smudging up at the top. I was trying to paint it, but I never got started really. And I did everything I wanted red and red, and everything I wanted green and green, and I wanted to see how that would turn out. So I think one thing I learned from this is the light green is not the choice. You really should use a darker green, because when you paint over it, it sort of disappears. What I've already done is I've already started a piece. Now, I checked on the back, and luckily I did, because on the back of this, I noticed holes, and I can hang this. So on the front of this, I put an X at the top where the top is. Okay, so that's really important. Always check the back, not only to take the labels off because they'll burn, but also to see if you have the holes on the back so you can hang it. And then I sketched this in. I didn't use my line drawing. I just sketched. The same thing with the original, because I think these leaves are fairly easy to sketch. You basically just sketch kind of a pointy leaf, but you make sure that as you go around, and I can show you, you add a few jags, and that makes it a poinsettia leaf. The other secret is in the center, you need some stems coming out. And then I'll show you how I did my center, these, because they turned out really cool, and I didn't do much to them. So for those of you that have never done this, you basically take your tile, you add the paint color in the powder form that you're going to be using. I use rich brown for everything. I'll tell you why. It goes on very smoothly. Smoother for me, perhaps, and better for me than oil and paint. So I use, this is rich brown, and I put just a little bit because, as you know, I'm only doing 2 leaves on that. Okay, I take my palette knife, and I always keep my Coke syrup. You can use Coke, as long as it has sugar in it or Pepsi, or you can use 7-Up. You can also just mix up, because Carl just mixed up some sugar and water. I think a couple teaspoons of sugar to like a half a teaspoon of water, and just kept mixing it, and that worked for him. And then you just add a few drops, not much at first, and mix it, just like you would if you were starting your paint. Now, the only thing is, now see, this is going to be a little running. That's okay. It will dry out as you go. Keep your sugar water close by, but you want it to drip. See, it's a slow drip. And I try to squish it all together a little bit. Okay. Wipe off your pen as soon as you, and your palette knife as soon as you're done using them, because this stuff dries like cement. Let me just tell you. Okay, now I'm going to bring back the plate I was working on. I have just these two to do. I figured the process is the same with all of this. You didn't need to watch me do all of this. But look, I let it set overnight. You don't even need to let it set overnight. You should be able to pretty much do this, I would say, within 15, 20 minutes of applying the sugar water. So I'm going to pull from the center out. And look at, like, for me, pen and ink would never do this. And I like it to skip a little. You need to pay attention to your poinsettia. Poinsettias, the veins come out opposite each other. So I have a picture right here that I was using to work from. And Carl sent me this picture that we were using to work from. I thought it was interesting. This showed that the red starts out first and then finishes out the leaf. So that was kind of fun to look at. I'd never seen a picture of a poinsettia in that stage before. Now let me show you how I do my leaves. I want to do them facing you. So I come up and I come down and I come up. There's nothing fancy to it. You can start at the top and come up and down. I make my leaves kind of angular. And they're smaller at the base than they are at the top. Here I might make a big angle, come down another angle. They're very simple leaves to draw. You almost, see, just make little, I try not to make too many round things in them. See here, these are all straight. This one you might be able to see a little better. See how it kind of choppy along the side there? That's what I'm going for. And then, now, in order to get my ink on my pen, I'm just scooping it, and I'm trying not to block that hole. So if you're new, those are things you need to know. And then over here, I'm just going to start at the base and go up. And you let it end at the top. You start at the base and you go up. That'll give you a nice finished edge on the top. You won't have blobs or little pen marks or what have you. You don't have to have veins on every leaf. Like this one here, I don't have any veins on. Okay, and then over here, I'm doing the same thing. I'm going a little bit of a stem. And then I'm just going to go up and down, up and down, up and down. But more square than not. And then turn it, make it easy for you to draw on it. There you go. And you'll have to let these dry. I want to make that a little darker. There we go. And there, and there. So that's why I said you don't need to watch me do all of this. Okay, I'm not doing my berries. The reason I'm not doing my berries is very intentional. I don't want to do my berries. I'm going to clean now with real quick with a Kleenex. I just use a Kleenex. And I'll just clean this up really quick with a Kleenex because it's still really wet. If you need to clean it off your palette or off your tile, then you use just a little of the Coke syrup or water. This is a water-based paint. This is a, it says it's a 1/4 inch. Alrighty, so let's start with the tiniest one here. I'm just going to side load my brush. Let me show you here. I'll move this over and I'll move this over just a tad so you can see, okay? I'm side loading my brush. That's this. You're doing the little C's in the color, which is carnation. I love carnation. It does not burn out for me. And I'm starting at the base and pulling in on one side, out on the other. Now, I'm trying not to disturb the color that the pen work that I did. So I'm going along the main stem, but I'm not touching the main stem with the darker color. That way I can let this dry overnight, work on it the next day, don't have to fire it, and it's all set. Now, the piece I'm working on is slightly tinted. It has a little bit of a yellow tint on it. What do I mean by that? Somebody took a big brush, probably a monster brush like this. This is a 3/4 inch. They dipped it in their paint and they very lightly added the paint, put it all over. They may have taken a sponge and, evened it out and then fired it. So that allows this particular piece to come out darker than a lot of the other pieces do. It gives you, the paint has something to grip to. There's some grit on the page. So now I'm going to put the one that I painted up here because I want to try to keep it as much like the one I painted as possible so that for those of you that are following, you can see what I did. Let's do this guy right here, this little teeny one. Same thing, red. I'm going to bring my red down to the base. I'm only using the red gently. Don't smear it around. The more you smear it around, the more likely you are to loosen up that darker color that's there. And just apply it a little to the edge, maybe a little over here. You want to leave a little highlight in the middle. Whatever you do now, if you are using a good red that will not fade, it will be the same color when you're done. And that's why you may or may not need a second fire. This is also a way you'll find out if you put too much oil on your brush. If you do put too much oil on your brush, you'll start to remove all the paint that's there. So we want to make sure that we don't. Okay, I'm going to go back in. And this is a half leaf here. So I'm going to apply the dark down here because the dark is at the base. Like that. And then I'm going to come along this edge. I'm doing kind of like little C's as I pull it out. I'm going to wipe off my brush and just feather it out to the end. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want this to be very light. And you've got an edge on it already. You don't forget, you've got that drawing on there. So if you don't take the color to the edge, you don't have to. It'll still be there. And the nice thing about that is it will also show very much. See, I'm wiping out this guy a little because I want him to be on top. Where the edge of the piece is, and it'll give you a beautiful highlight. Okay? So now he's on top of him. And if I need to, I can always put in a little more dark color. You can go over your color as long as you're very gingerly doing it. And by gingerly, I mean you're putting it down once like this. You're not going over it a million times. You're just going over it once. Okay. Now, I have, this guy is also going to be red. So we're gonna, now, this is a secret with my red. I take my carnation, like this, and this is a shading brown or a medium brown, and I add a little medium brown to it. Sometimes just using a darker color mixed in with your paint will give you a shading color without necessarily changing the color you're using. I mean, without necessarily having to use, you know, tons of color to get it darker. So that's what I'm doing here. And I'm teasing it to the edge because I want it to have a nice dry feel to it. Then I have to clean my brush, add more oil, and go back into a clean version of carnation and add the rest of the color. Okay, and I want to add a little here, and I want to add a little here, and maybe a little right in here. Okay, and then I'm just going to take my brush and just sort of feather all different directions just to get everything nice and smooth. But I don't want it too smooth because this is supposed to have some texture. After all, it is a flower. At this point, see, this is still one of my wet leaves. Let's see how wet it is. Not very wet at all. What about this one? Oh, where was the other one? Here, this one. See, that's already dried. So I can paint just about anything I want to paint. Now, I'm going to take this little Q-tippy thing and just kind of go around the edges real carefully and just pull off the color I don't want on there. And I'm going to take a bigger brush. I wonder if this brush would work. This is a, oh, geez, I think it's a 12. Yeah, it's a 12. It's a filbert. I like filberts. You may not like filberts. That's fine. But this needs to be worked up a little bit. Let me, where's my, here it is. Sometimes if your brushes get really, really gunky, because mine tend to, you're going to want to add a little bit of a terpenoid natural to them. If you have it, or mineral oil if you don't, whatever you have on hand, and just try to soften them up a little before you paint with them. I use copaiba, half mixture of copaiba and mineral oil, and my brushes do get kind of gunky, sticky. Okay, now I'm going to take a little bit of my moss green. I'm going to side low with a little bit of grass green, and I'm going to try this here. Now, it may not work as well as I thought it would because this is a tinted plate, and sometimes some brushes work real well on a tinted plate. Filberts may or may not. So you can see where I've added the color, and I'm coming up this side, adding a little here, a little along the edge. This is the one I just put the coke on not too long ago. And I'm pulling it up. Just want to get a little color there. And then on the very end, I'm just going to dip into my yellow. Nope. I want a clean yellow. When I tested it on my tile, it came out looking kind of dirty from the green being on there. And I'm just going to put a little yellow on the edge. Now, why? I don't know. It felt like it. On some of these here, I got the idea from this. See, there's yellow and there's yellow. I like a little bit of, well, you know me, I like a lot of color. I like a lot of color. And then in the center section, well, let's not do that quite yet. So then I try to alternate these. So like those two are red. I probably want this to be green back here. And now I'm going to use chartreuse. It's a little lighter with a little grass green. And just go in like this and down here. I'm keeping my colors bright because I like the bright colors. You can keep them any color you want. If you want to go with a darker color, I use artistic license quite a bit on my flowers because I like to mix and match colors like crazy. So I'm going to use my darker green down the center. Oops, that's going to be too dark. Yep, I knew that. Okay, let's try this again. I'm going to try my darker green down the center like this and here. And then I'm going to put a little bit of the lighter green over on this side, just down the center a little. Okay, and then I'm pulling in cool shadow on this guy. Why? I don't know. I just like cool shadow with green. You don't have to use these colors. You can use the traditional colors. I use these colors because I love them. And I just kind of go with the flow. Wherever I think I need it, I need it. And I try to keep some highlights on all of my leaves. Okay, this guy here, let's see, we got the half leaf. Yeah, he should probably be red. I'm going back. Well, I'm going to get my, this is a 10. It's not as big as the one I was just using, and it's not as small as the first one I was using. Now here, I'm going to be adding a rich brown to my red, because, and I'm using carnation red. This is rich brown. And the reason I'm doing that is to give me a different shade of red, and also to help it stand out. I'm only going to do one fire on this, and I'm kind of teasing the color around. I'm not like whoosh, painting. I'm teasing it around where I want it so that it gives me the desired effect. And then as I come out more this way, I will just use red on my brush instead of the red and the brown, to get more of a red look. Okay, now you see how I automatically just left some of my white on there? Remember, you've got the outline from the pen on here. You're not going to need to outline everything, but you are going to have to clean up things so that you get color only where you want it. Like, see here, I've got color outside the line. I don't want that. And a little here, there. Okay. Now I'm going to start adding my darker green to the center here, because if I don't, pretty soon I'm going to have a problem. And I'm just dabbing it in. You don't want it to pile up, but you do want it to be dabbed in. Yes, so for the center, I'm just putting in the dark green. That's all I'm doing right now. I'm trying to decide where it is. You kind of have to look very carefully as you use the edge of your brush, the side of your brush, as much as you use the regular brush when you're painting like this with the lines. Because what you don't want to do is mess up those lines if you can help it. Now I'm going to go back to my filbert. You don't have to use a filbert. Let me show you. You could also use, this is one of my favorites. This is, I have to be careful. It looks like a 3/4 inch or a 10, 12, something like that. You can use this too. And I'm going to do the green in the background on this guy. So I'm going to take all my lighter greens, add a little darker green, and just kind of... Now, another color combination that you can do to give you a little depth is do a little green and add a little red to it. And it will create a brown that's actually a very pretty brown. And I think that also adds a lot of color. I'm trying to not get any buildup with my color. I'm trying to keep it smooth and simple. Like here, I don't like that there. Okay. You can go back though, like let's say I want some blue here now. You can do it, but you have to be very careful. You can't always do it. Let me get a little blue on this one here. I guess I need to look and see, where is my light coming from? It's kind of coming down from on top, isn't it? There. Now, see how I did that? I just added a little color there, but not too much, because I kind of want there to be some texture on these. I want it to look a little watercolory, if you know what I mean by that. You want it to have a little bit of texture, but at the same time, you also want it to have color. I need a little more color here. A little color down the middle. Yeah. I find, let me see if I can find one that's clean here, that these stumps actually work better to clean out some of these colors. And when you have a stump like this, let me see if I can get in here. Oh, okay. I have this sandpaper. Let me move this because I don't want to sand right over the top of it. And you just, or go up and down if you want, like this, and get all the color off, because you want it to be clean. And you can see if color is still coming off on your sandpaper, that means there's still paint on there and you need to clean it. Now, I like the big ones, and I also like this size, which is kind of a regular size, almost like a pencil size. But see the color coming off? And here. So this is how you clean your stumps. There we go. Now I can, you know, if you have a turntable, play with it, because you will learn that there are certain ways that you can get a better effect depending on where the turntable is. Also, don't forget the benefit of using a dry brush. You can take a brush that you haven't put any oil on or anything yet, and just use it to help pull off some of the color too, if you've got too much color in a couple of places. See that? That'll help too. Okay. Now it's time for a red leaf, I believe. Okay, let's take some red now. And I'll show you the red and green. We talked about that. Now I'm going to put red on this guy. I'm going to come up this side with a little red. But you can see I want it because this guy's here. I'm going to want it to be a little darker there. So I'll show you what I'm going to do. Oh. Sometimes these colors, when you put them on and they're too heavy, can be a happy accident because you could never get them that heavy on your own. Now I'm going to take a little bit of green and just add a little green down. Oh. There. Now if you don't like that and you think, oh, it's too, you can always bring a little more red. And don't get the stripy look that I've got. You don't want that. You want a little more color on there. There, that's better. And then let's go to this guy here. Let's speed this up a little. And we're going to add a little red here, a little red here. Add it along the side. A little red there. Bring it up to the top. That's nice. Let's take it out of the middle there and pull it over to the side. Now, you paint these a little bit differently than you do regular leaves because you've got the advantage of having the line already there for you. So you don't have to worry about that. And here, we're going to do the same thing. I go dark at the bottom, and then I pull it from this, I go to the center, and then pull the center out. This is a little dark. I'm going to come up the side here, pull it up, pull it up. That's it. pull it up the side here. Pull it up to the point at the top. Pull it out, smooth it. And then you're going to come back down here and add a little color. You might want to add a little green with it. Or a little brown. I think I want a little brown. Yeah, I like the brown better. Look at that. I think I'm going to put the brown over here too. Oh, a little too much. And mix it in down in here too. Good. Okay. So use that. Use your artistic license. Do what you want to do. It's perfectly fine. Now, I guess my next question is, do you want to do red or do you want to do, let me see, where am I on my plate? Oh, that was actually a plain green. Okay, let's do a plain green here. This one's just a plain green. I didn't put any, oops. I didn't put any lines on it, any veining. I think it was for relief because it seemed like there was just too much veining on everything. So you can do that occasionally too. And then this guy back here is going to be green. And I'm going to use a light green mixed with a side load of a dark green. So full load white, light green, and side load dark green. And I'm following the edges around. And then I'm pulling them in. And I can do that because I won't mess up the ink on here, see? I can go right over the center and it doesn't even affect it. And then I can do maybe a lighter color in the center if I want. And I can pull it over to the edge like this. And maybe up in here like this. And then I'll add a little yellow. We don't have a little yellow yet. This is almost like sunflower yellow. There we go. That's a little too dark. Save that. This could come out this way a little more. Yep. Now you're going to have to walk away from this and come back to it because if you stay with it the whole time, you're not going to like it, okay? So walk away, come back, do what you need to do, but you're going to want to make sure that you have the colors that you like on here. And so I'm doing this all in one sitting, but you don't have to. You can do this. You can stop now, go do something else. I'm going to add a little brown down here because I want this red to stay separate from the other red. And, oh, too much brown. There we go. Turn your brush over. Sometimes that'll help get the brown under control or the darker color under control. I'm following it around the edges. That's how I paint my leaves. Not everybody does that. I follow mine around the edges and then I do my centers. Most people do just exactly the reverse. Okay, so I've got a couple of red. I got a couple of green. I don't want to overwhelm it with green, so I'm going to keep applying red to some of these now because I think it's, you know, it is a poinsettia. It won't look much like a poinsettia if it doesn't have some red on it. I'm going to add a little brown to this red here because it's going behind and I want it to be up a little more. Here. That's not doing it. Come on. There. Now, the flip side of that is, yes, you added brown, but you can also take away color here. And that'll lift it. So, you know, if you add color and it's not doing what you want it to, remember you can also take away color. This is one of those that I painted when we started, this leaf. You can paint them any color you want. They can be green or red, or a little bit of blue, or a little bit of whatever. And then you go way back on your brush and just sort of pull the color around different ways, the way you want it. Let me see, did I do the same thing on here? Not quite. I don't want to make it heavy with red, so I think I'm going to go, well, let me try his thing. Let me try this, where it's all green up in here. And we'll just have a little red at the base. I'm taking the green to the top. Okay. I'm only using my grass green for this right now. And the only reason I'm using grass green is because I happen to have it on my palette. And I didn't want to get rid of it. And it's a pretty green. If you've never seen a grass green, it's a very bright green. It's very pretty. And remember, these turn from the bottom. That's what we saw on that thing. So I'm gonna make this one kind of like that. Here we go. That'll be different. And then I need to take a smaller brush and just fix this here. Okay, now I'm going to do the center section and I will show you how I did that. And this was really weird. I took my stumps and I just started. There's one. Wipe off the stump. There's another. Wipe off the stump. There's another. Don't make them too big. I'm getting too much color on there, so there we go. Isn't that cool? Now you can start putting them underneath. And by that I mean you're just going to do little halves. Ta-da. But this is what I ended up with. This is the top up here. See? And this was my first one. This is a one fire. I like this one. There's a little more blue like in this here, so I may go back and put a little more blue in. Pick up those brushes, keep painting. And I hope you'll take a minute to subscribe so that other people can learn more about China painting and we can get the word out to more people. You also can look at the links below. My Paintnporcelain.com website has a lot of freebies and printables for new and experienced painters, as well as studies, supplies, and even some of my hand-painted china. So thank you again, and I'll see you next time.